Hey everybody, this is your host, Final Man Joe of Unlikely Places podcast edition here. You're tuned in this week now to Randy Pratt. Thank you, Glass Onion. Thank you, Billy, for setting this one up as well. Randy Pratt was part of Star People, and he also is responsible for getting Cactus back together. He plays harmonica in the regroup of it, but he's a killer bass player, so I hear all the stories. We did this in two parts, so after about 4 minutes, you'll see that the parts will switch. I will come back in to explain when they switch. We had two different calls, but I wanted to keep some of the fuzz tones information. It was pretty cool in the first part, and a little bit about the Vulcan Death Grip. Cheers to Randy. This was a lot of fun. I'm reading his book now. I'm having a lot of fun with that as well. Listen closely and learn something new.
Hi, this is Terry Draper from Class 2.
Hey, this is Paul Chastain.
I'm Brendan O'Hare. I used to be in Teenage Fan Club.
Vic from Star Collector.
Bowen Rat.
Jim Terrell.
Josh Bradley.
Paul Collins of the Nerves, the Breakaways, and the Beat.
I'm Frankie Siragusa, and you're tuning in to Unlikely Places Pop and Rock Radio Show with Final Man Jeb.
Let's just have a chat down here.
You're listening to Mad Wasp Radio.
I wanted to start right away with just like the backstory for you. What got you into music?
The Beatles.
Ah.
I said that when I saw the Beatles picture on the cover of Life magazine before I even heard the music, my DNA shifted, and I was no longer useful for anything, anything straight job type of thing. Yep.
That's awesome.
Victim of the Beatles.
Yeah, and then it's always the Beatles to blame for a lot of these cooler groups from the past, but it's always cool to hear.
Yeah, if you're old.
It's not a bad thing.
No, it's a good thing.
Oh yeah.
I remember when the Beatles broke up, I was in high school, and I was like, does that mean, do we have to go out and get normal jobs now? Like they were kind of our parents and guardians or something.
Yeah, now you need to go actually get a 9-to-5. You can't be in a rock band.
Yeah, right.
The Beatles were just the break.
Anyway.
And then, you know, the fuzz tones being part of them. Were you in the beginning, or were you part of the formula?
Yeah, I joined when they were bubblegum, kind of, and then they decided to become the fuzz tones when I joined. I think when I moved into the city, I quit playing for a couple of years, and but I did move in there because I was afraid to take myself seriously as a musician, and that I was working for a punk clothing store that I was a part owner in called Natasha, across from Trash and Vaudeville, and on St. Mark's Place, right in the middle of everything. And I was really skinny, and I had a great haircut, and everybody wanted me to join the band. They didn't even ask if I was good or
It's just the way you look. You're in.
Pinky Phillips and the Planets, and I didn't. So I had to race out to my parents' house and take a week off from work and just wank on the bass for about a week and a half and try to get in shape again. And Rudy was very patient with me and kind of taught me how to be a band leader, and I learned a lot from him, really, including confidence and stuff. And he cried when I quit. He's a sensitive guy. He's cool, though, super cool. And I gave him my Fox, a Phantom bass. And then we did this other thing called Vulcan Death Grips together afterwards.
Yeah, I've been watching Picard,
so cool.
And I see Anne is one of Admiral Clancy now, which is very cool.
What is she?
She is actually one of the actresses in the series for the Star Trek series now, which is really cool.
Fantastic! I wondered about her for a long time, and then I saw her on Man in the High Castle, and Philip K. Dick is like a guru to me, and that was just so cool. And I got back in contact, and we're doing Vulcan Death Grip songs now. We started. I got the original drummer is going through hell with his 100-year-old mother, like just clinging to life, and for month after month. But he did do some drum tracks, and I put some bass on them, and Rudy's on tour now. But we're going to do that. Everybody's
very cool. I was thinking it's perfect timing now with the whole Star Trek thing, and it's awesome. One of my bands was named the Ponfar.
Is it a TV series?
Yeah, it's on Paramount Plus. It's like a streaming series, and it's basically like the after Next Gen, like the pickup where Picard is coming back.
You know,
It's a crazy
didn't
story.
really keep up with Star Trek.
Okay.
So the movies,
Yeah.
Captain Kirk I didn't go much past him.
Yeah, so
But
it's
I love that.
very original. The original was great. Nerding out about the original Star Trek with anyone is always fun, but with Randy, it's even more fun. In this next call here, a couple days after. Hey, everybody, this is your host, Vinyl Man Jeb of the Unlikely Places Pop and Rock Radio podcast. I'm here with Randy Pratt. He was in Cactus. He's known for getting Cactus back together. He was also in the Fuzz Tones. And Vanilla Fudge, that's right. An honor to have you, Randy. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Perfect. And we'll get into also Vulcan Death Grips, too, we mentioned in the beginning here as well last time we called, so we'll be throwing that into as well. But we're just going to right into the new one here with Black Ties and Tails, which has been around. This is after 20 long years. It's been, waiting to come out. I surely is a movie for your ears, or should I say a comic book for your ears. You guys can check that out on the website here that I will link down below. All this really cool stuff. And, it's been described as classic brain melt and sci-fi progressive rock, and it's really fun. I enjoyed the album through and through, and I really enjoyed reading the comic book after you told me about it. And so let's start off with that. What was the inspiration to getting that comic book out for the album there and getting that whole story down?
Yeah, we had a manager who did break the band up, but also kind of caused us to do some interesting things, and somebody suggested I do a comic book. And I used that artist, and they ended up not liking the artist. He wasn't modern enough, which didn't bother me, but I think it tells the story pretty well. And I do I like the art. I like the comic books like up to about the mid '60s. That I think the new, I guess it looks old fashioned, right? Mm-hmm. And we did that and a lot of theatrical stuff when they took us off the road. We were on the road for about 6 national tours, and our violin player had played with Bon Jovi and Sheryl Crow at her peak, and when they took us off the road, she's going, I've never seen an opening act get a response like this. I remember we played a few on our second time to visit a theater as an opening act. You walk on stage to a standing ovation.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that never happened to anyone in any other band.
What was the inspiration by making a comic book out of the whole story that you've written?
They told me the story's too complicated. We have to dumb it down, and they had these comic book writers write it. And I said, you turned Philip K. Dick into Porky's Revenge. And that kind of, at that point, I knew our relationship with the management was messed up, and we kind of disintegrated at that point after being off the road that long, just for various personal issues, which was sad. But one thing I'm totally hardened to is I've always got another band I'm working at, because I always assume something's going to go wrong with one band. An interesting note about this Black Tie and Tails. The singer, the narrating singer, there's 3 singers, but the narrator guy, the teacher, passed away like right after we finished. This is the last thing he did, really, which was sad. But I did so many projects with him too. He was an actor and a comedian, and I've been in bands where I've had a singer who was handsome, had a fantastic voice, and would stand a rock god, and the 25 seconds in between songs would seem like 15 minutes because they had nothing to say, and the audience could just feel it, And with this guy, it was like he would just improvise stuff in between songs. That was often the best part of the show, and sometimes this was just such a natural front man. When we went on tour with Lorenzo on violin, she said, we've got to work out some dance routines. So we were in Atlanta, and we played the Variety Theater, and after the gig, we went into a rehearsal space, and they taught the band these simple, funky little dance routines. And we had one song where during the breakdown, the roadies would bring out a table and the mixing devices, so they make martinis on stage while the keyboard would be going dum 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 dum. The roadies were so like military precision. They would just have everything off stage and just go right into something heavy after that, tight as a drum.
That's awesome. And like I said, I really enjoyed the comic book. Quick segue for if you want to hear about the comic book too, because I do really enjoy it. It's on hyperspacerecords.com, which you could also check at the end of this episode. We talk about the whole comic book and the whole details of it. So read it first, then check the end of this episode after to see that there's actually like a live production behind it. The album is fantastic too. So who did the artwork for the comic book? I'm really loving the art on the website there.
That guy did murals all over my house of Mars Attacks, not the movie,
cool.
but of the bubblegum cards that came out in 1962.
Yeah, the top
Before I got
there.
into music, that was my thing. My passion was the Mars Attacks story on bubblegum cards from 1962. The parents forced them off the market because they were too gruesome. And then that's where Tim Burton got the idea for the movie from. Somebody handed him those cards. It was kind of an amalgam of every science fiction cliche you can look through. You can see this brain head and the skull face, all that stuff you can see from other movies from the 50s and 60s. And that guy lived near me when I lived in the city, and his artwork was painting Hell's Angels motorcycles.
Oh, wow.
And that I was in my neighborhood. There was a Hell's Angels headquarters down there in the Lower East Village. And he would do drum skins for me and stuff like that. And then right before I moved out of the city, he did one wall in a kind of outer space thing. And a house on Long Island to build a studio in. I just kept the old odorous rugs in as like drop cloths, and he did all the hallways and bathrooms and everything, and Mars Attacks theme. After that, after a while, he kept doing covers for me. He did the band The Lizards. He did a series of covers for. That band toured a lot. That band was what came right out of Star People. I was already rehearsing that on the side just for something, just because I'm a workaholic, I guess. And I remember that the drummer had to leave the band, and Bobby Rondinelli, who was a local child star out in Long Island where I grew up, he went on to play with Black Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, wow.
And Rainbow, I saw him play at Madison Square Garden in Rainbow, and I thought, he made it. I didn't really know him, but I knew of him, and I'd seen him. and he was doing a solo album for the guy Mark Stein from Vanilla Fudge, and I just found the courage to say, like, can I ask you to come upstairs? And I showed him the Star People videos, and I played him the first Lizards album.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I need a drummer, and he goes, well, actually, the Lizards is more my style. I just said, okay. And that was the choice that I made, for better or for worse. I mean, the Lizards were great. There was another band that would have probably, we were just about to do our first headline tour of Europe, and I had a car accident and broke my 2 fingers on my right hand.
Oh, jeez. Ow.
So by the time that healed, we had kind of splintered.
The artwork,
the artist. Yeah, he did a series of Lizard-related, like Godzilla-type related covers for the Lizards also. And by the time he was on this, I think this third album, he wasn't drawing anymore. He was doing it on a computer. But the other ones, I actually had paintings for. I have all the sketches he did on pencil and stuff for that Star People record. So at that point, he was still using that old-fashioned method of actually drawing.
That's awesome. I used to always love looking at the old comic books and the old 50s movie posters. I've always been fascinated. My band and I are working on a concept album called Spaceship Truth, and we have it like the movie style like that. We have a reel, old 33mm reel on our cover art, and it was just something we always wanted to work with, because I love old monster movies. It's just been my thing.
Yeah,
I love it.
Illustrative art, I kind of collect it, actually.
That's so cool.
I've been collecting kind of romantic or sexy stuff of a guy with black hair and a beautiful blonde that's supposed to be my wife and I. So I have them all over the house, like paperback covers, like the actual painting from was a romance novel or you never heard of or something like that. It's fun.
And what would you say would be the music influence behind Black Ties and Tails? Is there any musical influences? And the story is fantastic, but is there any
the singer, the teacher, and the other Golden Boy were in another very popular band in New York City with me that was 180 degrees opposite in image from Star People. It was a band called Funky Nights, and it was kind of like almost like X-rated comedy done to disco and funk music. And I won't go into a lurid description of the singer's image, but it was the exact opposite. That guy was a very talented actor. He could just take on a role. He'd go, explain my character to me, you know. Like I remember saying that with that band, and that band did 1,000 gigs between 1989 and 1994. I mean, Led Zepplin played 550 gigs, to put it in perspective. I'll never do that again. You know, like the Star People played, I think, 100 concerts. They were all big concerts, but the story evolved. I wanted to do a prog band because the guy, the guitar player, had been okay. All I knew was the Beatles, and I remember I was going to have a party, and my friend said, "You got to get some new records. You're still all you have is a Dave Hard 5 and the Beatles," and it was like 1966. So this guy was like turning me on to like all interesting other stuff, you know, the Vanilla Fudge. We're like, listen to this, you know, and he kind of was almost like a guru to me at the time, and musically, because he already had all the clothes from Carnaby Street and big Vox amp, and he had a band that was gigging and stuff. And I was in awe of him. Then I kind of lost touch with him, and he also I knew him up till about we went to the Fillmore together and stuff, and he had been to England in 1969 and seen King Crimson, Yes, and other bands like that before anybody even heard of them in America, and came back and we bought all the records, and we were ahead of America on knowing about those bands, and we went to see them at the Fillmore. I saw the original King Crimson with
Court of the Crimson King,
Lake, and I saw Yes, the very first Yes tour of America and all that stuff. So
very cool.
Gentle Giant and all that stuff, and
Prague legends.
So he was like arty like that, but he also loved Black Sabbath, and that was that's what's so cool about his style on this band. Because I'm a little more. I love prog, but I would say I'm a little more Black Sabbath than. But although I did see, I saw every incarnation of King Crimson. That was my favorite prog band. I would say I'm probably every incarnation of Yes. But I lost touch with him on my 20 years in Manhattan, where I finally got myself serious and organized. And the Fuzztones, when I was briefly in the Fuzztones, everybody wanted me to be in their band because I looked rock, but I didn't have any chops. And Rudy was patient and let me build that up and stuff. And after 20 years in the city of just playing all the time, you know, just like I had to be in 6 bands to pay for the rehearsal studio. So I was playing like from 7 till 2 in the morning every night, and just gigging constantly. And came back out to Long Island to start the studio, and by some freak accident, this guy, Bob Dean, the captain, who plays solo like Fripp and rhythm like Tony Iommi, I ended up getting the house. It was 2 houses down from his house. And I hadn't even really stayed that closely and barely in touch with him all that time. And we just started a band, and I just really respected him as a creative person, but I knew that my role was always going to be the sergeant, you know, the guy. Come on, let's go, hustle, let's go. You got to rehearse 4 times a week.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be in a band with you. You know, and nobody else was that guy, you know. I'd completely quit drinking, and I was very focused and everything. And but he you know, a lot of the sophisticated stuff comes from him. But and even though I kind of did form the storyline in my mind, and the songs were about that, there'll be a song everybody would write the lyrics. You know, like I might write lyrics, and then the singer would come in and put a monologue in it or something like that. It was great. in the way that everybody shared and the creativity. That was really a nice thing about the band.
Yeah, and I really like how there's different cast of characters too, and who are all the cast of the characters?
Okay, the characters.
Yeah.
Rat Pack was a big part of the Funky Nights.
Ooh.
And it was always a big. So those two singer guys, with me, egging them on, were very good at that and got it. They knew it. Bill knew how to do all those. He could just go off on a rap like he was talking, like those guys were all his friends or something. He was very good at it, and so we just incorporated that into the act. It was just. It wasn't even necessarily like a joke. I mean, I love the Rat Pack.
That's awesome.
I think Frank Sinatra's probably the greatest singer ever. It comes off as funny, I guess, but it was done with respect.
And that's awesome because you could make jokes about it, but it's also seriously a love of it too, which is amazing. I love that. And when
in the comic, you see that all these different civilizations that are getting the signals from Earth, they all pick something that they like. Maybe we had one offshoot story where there was some obscure. The Rat Pack took a liking to this failed Broadway actor and gave him his own paid for his own public access TV show in New York for one season, and at this point he's like and that the Star people totally worshipped him. It was only one season of a cheesy, New York public access TV show, say back in the 70s or something, they got it. When the signal wouldn't differentiate between the most popular show that ever was and something that was only on for one season, they might say that since it was so obscure that it was maybe that was a hidden truth, So at this point, that guy is a bathroom attendant on Broadway, but people loved him, because he had a lot of personality, and that was another character too. I mean, in a band that I was in, I was actually going to play that role. He was another comedian that we worked with, and the one scene he's in the men's room, and the mayor is I guess seeing something on Broadway, and he's locked in one of the stalls, and they're having a back and forth conversation. Everybody would kind of talk to this guy because he was smart, but he was the bathroom attendant, and while he's talking to the mayor, the Star people just appear in a smoky. They worship him, and they're talking to him about come on the road with us, and meanwhile the mayor's still talking, and somehow they make him believe they do something that make him believe that they are from the 11th dimension, and he was going to be like the guy who would narrate the story as they went on. But the Rat Pack has always been in the middle of a lot of stuff that I did with these guys.
Very cool, yeah, and I like that. It's like a reference to the past, but also still kind of present in your heart. So it's perfect. It's in the story as well. And when did the sessions begin for recording for this album? I mean, this was a 20-year-old lost album in a sense.
We would just tour. Mm-hmm. Come home, write, tour, write, and come home. And this was finished on when the band broke up. I'm going to look at it right now and see if anything. We were even still together when the Vanilla Fudge were and Star People were rehearsing in the same.
Very cool.
They were kind of staying, like Tim Bogert was staying at the house from California doing the Fudge reunion album.
Wow.
And listening to and I remember Carmine walking in on that Star People rehearsal and thinking, this is really interesting. And that struck me to do that song Day in the Life, and he didn't even listen to it. He just picked up a bass and played that.
Wow.
And it was amazing. I was really glad that I've just completely forgotten that we had done that, and while we were putting this together, it's just somebody mentioned.
I'm a big fan of Tim Bogert, so I love the early Cactus band, and I know you're part of them getting back together, which I think is amazing. Seeing you, I know you're a legendary bass player, and you're playing harmonica with Cactus. It's like, this is awesome.
Yeah, Tim's in Cactus. That was my favorite bass playing. So it was just a miracle that I could play harmonica well enough to do that, because I certainly wasn't going to play bass.
No, you can't play two basses, Tim, and be the harmonica's perfect. Yeah. Yeah, I love seeing some of the videos of you playing with them and coming back, and I saw them on YouTube and stuff. I'm like, this is so cool. So I've been a big Cactus fan. I have a couple of the albums on vinyl that I've recently picked up. So
did you have the new album?
I is that the Birth of Cactus 1970, the one that's coming out? Is that
that's the first gig. Yeah, we have a new we had a new lineup, and now we've got another new lineup.
Ooh.
It's Carmine and I are now the only original members.
Oh,
of the
wow.
reunion. We had a great other guitar player, Paul Warren. My wife is such a trooper that she not only on one tour she had her shoulder replacement and her arm up in a sling.
Jeez.
2.5 weeks after the shoulder replacement, we're on tour, and she's videotaping the band with her arm up in a sling like that. And then when we got married, the first half of our honeymoon was the first tour of the new lineup with a new guitar player named Paul Warren. Through Germany and Belgium and stuff like that, and in a van, and then we went on, did a cruise and stuff like that. But yeah, we have a new album, which I'll send you as soon as I
perfect.
get off here. It's called Tightrope.
Ooh, I'd love to hear that.
And the guitar, we do a version of Papa Was a Rolling Stone, because the guitar player, that was his first session when he was 17. He played the lead guitar on that song, The Temptations, which is one of my favorite songs of all time. He really was great. It totally kept the vibe of Cactus. And my bass tech is the bass player now. The guy who was the roadie for Cactus, for Star People all over the country and stuff like that. So that's a revolving door thing. We even have a new singer.
Ooh.
But that band is one of the few bands that can just keep changing personnel.
Yeah, we plan to have Carmine up on the show
to replace the other guys with.
Yeah, it's Carmine's one of my favorite drummers of all time, and I grew up with Beck.
So. I can't believe the drummers I've gotten to play with. The guy in Star People is amazing. He's not famous, but he's amazing.
I could hear it. It's like the pounding drums. I love that. Oof.
Going back and listening to that guy, and the reason he's not on the second half is because that I didn't know that was going to be a Star People album at first. He understands that. He says it's okay. But everybody else, all of the original band is on that.
Wow.
Plus a couple of guest players that shred guitar player.
How long did it take between the original sessions of the album and then coming back to redoing it in 2021? How long did that take to come to light, or has that always been kind of in the background?
Honestly, it was pretty much finished.
Oh,
and
okay.
It was actually half of them were even mixed. So that was pretty quick getting that together.
Oh, cool.
The second one, I'm looking now. It was quick.
Perfect. Yeah, I was as soon as I got in touch with Billy from Glass Onion to get a list of the people, Carmine was on the list as well, and then I saw, I love Cactus, and I saw your name there too, and I was like, oh my god. So I was like, yeah, I got to talk to Randy too, but it was so exciting because I got to hear the new album. Definitely will be emailing you after to hear that, because I could play some of the tracks on the show too.
Which of the reunion albums do you have?
I have for Cactus or for I don't have any of the newer ones. I got to get into that.
Oh, all right. Okay,
yeah.
Good. I will get you those.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
I might have to send you hard copies of.
Oh, that's all right.
of them, but the newest one I can just can just email
Perfect.
it
Yeah,
to
I'll
you,
get
but
them up on the
I
radio
might
show
be
and
able
everything too.
to
Yeah,
do that with all
I
of
love
them.
playing all that stuff. And Beck, Bogert, and Appice was how I got into Cactus first. Was the Beck album with Bogert and Appice.
Well,
and
another thing I can send you is the Carmine. Carmine sent me the mixed by Jeff Beck's mixed version of their last gig.
Oh wow!
Live at the Rainbow. That band is interesting. They were amazing, but
I love it.
The album is problematic. There's too many non-badass songs on it.
I got you.
And the live album they did was right when they started, jet lagged, showing up in Japan and going right to the gig and playing. And I know they were hotter than that. And then I got a bootleg of this live at the Rainbow of their last gig. Tim Bogert punched Jeff Beck in the nose right before they went on stage. That's what it sounds like. It makes Live Cream sound like they're on Quaaludes or something.
Oh no!
I mean, it's just so hyper and
oh no!
I mean, Jeff Beck will do a wide bend, and Tim will do a wider bend at the same time. Like they're solo,
what the hell
like two guys soloing at the same time, and then the drummer keeping it together in the background.
I don't know how Carmine does it. He's so good.
I love it. I think
that's awesome. I would really enjoy.
I know
that.
Jeff Beck had a problem with it at the time, but apparently he's come to love it. I don't know why that hasn't been officially released.
I'll enjoy listening to that, of course.
A Japanese bootleg that looks like a record company's promoting it, except it doesn't have the songs from the second album. There's also a thing called Working Version that was a bootleg that came out in the late 80s, early 90s that is demos for the second album, and some idiot producer told them the songs weren't good enough. I like it 10 times as much as their first album.
Cool. Yeah, I'll get your email. I think I got it from Billy at Glass Onion, and I'll send you my address and everything, and we'll figure that out. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
And I have your email.
Perfect. Yeah, you got mine too. Yeah. The Unlikely Places one there. Unlikely Places Radio at Pop. Yeah, that's right. I think I gave it to you. Yeah, that's right. Couldn't remember. But perfect.
It's funny because he's my favorite bass player, but I don't play like him because he's. I know a lot of guitar players. The guy in Cactus eventually, like, I want a regular bass player. You know, I guess he wouldn't. They didn't know his place.
That's awesome. Well, it kind of reminds me of like Chris Hillman, because I'm thinking Chris Hillman's the Byrds bass player. I can't remember the Byrds bass player now. I'm feeling like I'm losing it here.
The what?
The bass player for the Byrds. I'm trying to remember his name. If it was Chris Hillman or if it was.
You cut out there.
Oh, there. Sorry. The Chris Hillman from the Byrds kind of reminds me of like the early days when the Byrds used to do like 8 Miles High, and Tim Bogert just had that kind of feel to it with going up and down the neck.
Really?
Yeah.
There's busy bass in that song.
No. So Chris Hillman with the Byrds, but Tim reminds me of like the Byrds bass player, Chris. That's what I was saying. Like Tim reminds me of that sound, and then Tim's his own thing now. Yeah.
I never noticed that. You know who Carmine's guy now is this guy Tony Franklin, who was. Did you ever hear the band Blue Murder?
Yes. Oh yeah, I have one of the vinyl. I have one of their records.
He did a version for my wife to sing of with Bobby Rondeli on drums. The song
wow.
"Take My Breath Away" from Top Gun.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I met him years ago. We was on tour with the Lizards and Carmine and Pat Travers, and I became friends with him. And I said I would love to hear that song, because it's not a real bass on the song. The song is just a bass part and a vocal and some kind of orchestral stuff in the background. And I said, Tony plays fretless bass. You never hear a guy play fretless bass like that, where he'll do these big. I think most guys who play fretless are jazz guys, and the way he plays would be considered tacky. I mean, he'll do these like swooping things that just show off the fretless thing, and it's so it's kind of trashy, but he's got such good chops that it's great.
It makes it work.
He sounds like Tim Bogert on the fretless, with Carmine on the Blue Murder stuff, I think. So anyway, he did it. Bobby laid down just a simple drum part to that. I think it's like a drum machine on the original album song too, and Tony does this just gorgeous fretless to that.
That's
my
awesome.
wife's going to sing that when she recovers from her knee replacement surgery.
Very cool. Yeah, my bass player for the Saint Riot, my band, he has a fretless bass, and I love watching him play. I'm like, this thing's crazy.
I made a decision in the late 80s, early 90s. I either wanted to play six string or a fretless, and I borrowed a fretless, and I didn't trust my intonation enough, and I couldn't figure out where the notes were.
Yeah, it's like, where do I put my fingers here?
I still probably couldn't. Even though there were dots there, even though there were lines there, I spoke. Where am I? I don't get it. It just didn't. I
got you. Yeah.
I didn't take to that, but the six string was just what I played in. All the Star People stuff was six string.
Ah, very cool. Yeah, he's got a 5-string, I think.
Extra long scale, 36-inch scale.
Very cool. Yeah, it's well, I wonder if you could play what Tony Levin plays in King Crimson now with the 24 5-string bass or whatever the hell he's playing now.
What do they call it?
I forget. I'm trying to remember. I saw him live just recently too. I saw King Crimson. I love King Crimson, so I was like,
Yeah, the stick.
Yeah, yep.
Stick.
That's it. Yeah, it's crazy.
I saw a band in Germany that played with, that opened for us, that had an American guy who played rhythm guitar and sang like blues. And the bass player played the stick, and he played the solos, the guitar solos, and the bass at the same time on the stick.
Oh, man.
Breathtaking. It's amazing.
It's crazy instrument.
Than what Tony Levin does. Tony Levin is amazing on it. It is an amazing instrument.
Yeah. It's one that's not easy to master either, so you gotta have some
you have to be a good piano player to play it.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's all tapping. It's with both hands.
It's basically the open piano on a string instrument layout.
Yeah.
That's crazy stuff. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the Star People album, and I wanted to thank you for coming on and taking your time. I do have a couple more questions, of course. And
I don't think I talked about Star People enough.
Yeah, we got to get more out for that. I love it. Well, it's cool that we got the scoop of what the second story would have been, the part 2. So that's very exciting. And if there's any more you want to bring up about Star People, of course, there's probably tons and tons of story. You have the open floor for that, of course.
Just that people can listen to it for free on the site, and if they go to the Hyperspace Records Facebook page and like it, they'll get posts for new records that come out, and it's got basically 27 albums on there of all different styles for free, and including this new Star People album. And if you really wanted to, if anybody cared enough to do what we just did here, they would read the comic first and then listen to the albums in order. But that's not necessary, I guess.
I'm going to take the deep dive. I was enjoying just reading the comic book by itself and knowing the Star People album that I was listening to, but talking with you has made me very, very want to take this deep dive. I love the comic book style like this, and it's just so fun to see somebody that's making it work, making those concept story work, as crazy as they are, but making them work, which I love.
Well, the video for In Time, I wish we could have done like 20 of those. Right? That was so much fun.
Yeah, I think that was I saw one video on YouTube. Let me see if I can find it, because I saw, you type in Star People, it's tough to find, the stuff related to what you have, but that's why it's great to have that website, because everything's right there. But I know when I saw one video, and it might have been the one you were just talking about.
The one that's done in a film studio.
Okay, yeah, that might have been the one I was watching, because I was watching one. I'm trying to remember if it's on my watch list here.
Well, there's some that are done where they're kind of out of focus.
Okay.
And black, almost black and white, or like blue and black and white, kind of done from live footage, but with the album soundtrack. And then there's one that was a big production called to the song In Time.
That's the one I saw. It was In Time. That's right. Yeah.
Where they were like acting and stuff. That one was great. I didn't really do that with any other band. And yet I don't have a pro live shoot of Star People, which I have tons of with like the Lizards and other bands. But Star People's the only band that has that MTV style video where it's almost like a movie.
Very cool. Yeah, I enjoyed watching that. I was like, and you guys toured with Dream Theater, right? You opened for Dream Theater too.
We did, yep.
Which is it fits right in with that, so it's really cool.
Yeah, we did Dream Theater, Dixie Dregs, and us, and
Ooh.
there was a little attitude problem. They would try to sabotage our sound and lights and stuff like that, but our guys managed to hold it together. And that one video of us at the House of Blues in New Orleans was towards the end, second to last gig of the tour. I remember they would just kind of like hang out on stage during our time for sound check. And then we would just screw us out of sound checks and stuff. But I remember the House of Blues, and we were well seasoned at that point. And the soundman goes, "Get off the stage and let the other band have a sound check." So we got a sound check, and if you watch that, that's on YouTube too. It's like 23 minutes set.
Ooh.
Like the Beatles when they toured America, and their tours were like 25 minutes long. I think
that's right. Yeah.
we did, and the audience, just erupted, and we had great sound and lights, and we come off stage, and their record company was backstage after them, kind of giving us shit the whole tour. The record company is there, and they run up to us in front of the Dream Theater and go, "We want you on our record company." And I was too modest at that point to realize what a nice little get back that was at that point. But that's funny.
Yeah, I've seen Dream Theater live.
And then we broke up.
Ones. Oh no! Right there. It's like everything was going great. Boop. Oh Lord.
Art for art's sake.
But I mean, it's so cool to see such a unique career. This is something I've never seen before in the music I'm so used to, but I love finding stuff like this, and I'm hooked. My keyboardist is big into this kind of stuff too, so him and I we're gonna live a dream.
Check out the Lizards.
Will do.
4 to 11.
Okay.
DVD. There's a lot of prog stuff on there.
Ooh.
About 1/3 of the Lizards' music, I would say, was prog. It didn't have a Hollywood frontman like that. It was just straight
music. I got you. Yeah.
That DVD is on the website too.
Perfect. Yeah, I love it. I could just deep dive into everything and not have to worry about trying to find it. It's all there, which I have really cool idea that you had for making a website around that, which is awesome. And we'll link everything down below.
It's brand new, so
perfect.
I'm glad you like it. Tell your friends.
Awesome. I will do. I'll share it around, of course. And this interview will be out probably within a month or two, like a month at least, because I got a couple ahead of us. So everybody, when Billy threw me the names, I was like, oh yeah, I'll take everybody, but I got to edit everything too. So it's a one-man show over here. We just have people make our thumbnails. My buddy Owen.
Where do you live?
I'm in Connecticut, USA.
Right,
so.
you told me that. Okay.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no. And I live on. So if you're ever around on the East Coast around this area, let me know.
We have a house in Long Island. So
cool.
That's where the big recording studio is.
Perfect.
I have a small one down here. We couldn't put drums in it or anything. But
I got you. Yeah.
Great talking to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll email you. And you can send me I'll give you the address and everything, and you can send the care package. And I'd love to dive in. That'd be perfect. And for all the Cactus stuff and everything. So thank you so much for coming on, Randy. I will definitely edit this for you. I'll put some songs in too to the episode too, so it'll be like your own radio show type thing. So you get your own 2-hour radio show.
Those are my royalties.
There, yeah, right. That's the way it works now. It's like yes. Well, thank you, Randy. You can call me anytime. I'd love to talk again. That'd be perfect.
Thank you again.
No problem. Have a good one. I'll email you and I'll let you know when this is up and everything. I'll keep you posted.
And I'll send you the stuff I said.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
You're tuned into Mad Wasp Radio, so don't forget where you are. Don't change that dial, you don't need to anyway.
Brought this band back into my life. I've never finished. The story evolved as we went along, and I had everybody was reading books on quantum physics and stuff like that. Not that they understood it, but we got phrases from it and vague ideas of possibility. And since even the top theoretical physicists don't say they really know anything, they're just pontificating, I figured we can too, you know. So, so you got the story up to there. So anyway, the band goes out on the road, and that really was our press lady there. That's what she looked like and everything. We go out on the road as an opening act, and the idea, and of course we're worshiping these Earth people, but we're so far advanced beyond them as far as understanding the nature of reality and coming from the 11th dimension and death. I mean, the concept of death and time and all that, I guess we completely understand. As a result, there's no real creativity there or anything, because there's no, all these other, and I'm just talking about that group of people. Theoretically, everybody, everywhere, as soon as they get this receiver, they are getting these messages. And we, in our minds, we have to go out and on the radio or on television and join the signal, and then we become immortal, because we'll be there for all the civilizations everywhere to see, and that means we have to make it.
You have to.
And you can't make it on cable. It has to be. Little details like that would come up along the way. So we go out there, and we're not getting on the radio. We're people would kind of, you know, maybe they like us and they think that it's a cute act. The stuff that we when we're telling them the truth. We're not really. We don't get there, and we end up in Vegas, and a unscrupulous cigar chomping manager convinces Stargirl and Golden Boy that they don't need the band. They should go out solo. So that's one of the songs, and they do that, and they're kind of missing the band stuff. The one and then Bill starts drinking with homeless people in alleyways and preaching about time and space and all that kind of stuff. So that's Bill going, "Where did my life go?" And 3 Miles to Hollywood is Golden Boy on their own. And the band, and we had this when they took us off the road. That we were going to be a play, and we. Okay, the two singers are the two good, you know, young, good-looking singers are having Las Vegas solo performances on their own and kind of not feeling fulfilled. Bill is his head's spinning. You know, he doesn't know what to do with these people. He's starting to realize that the people that we've been worshiping don't get it, and the band goes out and tries to be like a wedding band, and we did a skit with it where it was kind of like insane noise music, like Robert Crazy noise rock with the singer kind of like, you know, screaming. It was funny anyway. It wasn't a good wedding band, so nobody was really making it on their own. As slowly we begin to realize these people that we worship, and he says that in the 3 Miles to Hollywood, all these foolish strangers, they don't have the key. All these imagined meanings of the television shows was beginning to realize that it's just junk, and they don't really know anything. Earth people don't really know anything. Well, not junk, but it's not not the truth. It's not the deeper truth or anything. So he shows this woman. He has the power to kind of like let her see that the way time is, and that everything is existing. Every moment is existing at the same time, like they say, and
all the realities,
in the higher dimensions, that time has it's different. The timeline of your life or of the world is like say a snake, and if you could lift your head up and look in the other dimensions, you could see your birth and your death, and it's all there at the same time.
Yeah, it's like the parallel lines there. Yeah,
right. Move nearer the sun. It's kind of like we become hugely successful when we start singing about that stuff. All of a sudden, we're bigger. We're more popular than like musical act or anything. We're just like a phenomenon all over the world. And I don't know if did you hear the earlier albums? There's one song called "Scientific Prey" that we had where I said I don't even know if that was going to be in it, but they tried it. the FBI, the CIA, and the KGB and everything meet at the Sony building, and they're kind of like trying to like that's when they're like torturing Bill. We even had that on stage. I had that on video. It's great. We
wow.
had a table where he had a headpiece that was smoking and everything while they were strapped down to this table, and they were trying to. I don't know what, get into who are you, where are you from, like, what do you need? And
that's awesome.
Because we were threatening to all the powers and everything. But there's one scene also before that, though, where he's in the alleyway preaching to these bums, these classic bums with wine bottles and everything. And the band finally, he gets the band back together, and everybody's unhappy anyway, so they're ready for it. And then we go out, and but then at the end, there's this we're going to throw one big concert and bring back all these lost relatives and famous people and everything to show the planet everything, the reality, like just kind of display it. And there's this one great scene that this other writer threw in there, this one line. I can't quote it now, I don't have it in front of me, but he did in perfect Rat Pack lingo. And do you remember this? I think it was a Twilight Zone where that happens, where this guy brings back all the people out of the graveyard, and
oh yeah,
and like the guy's wife is coming after him with a rolling pin, and you owe me money and all this, So it's like all of a sudden, old Blue Eyes Frank Sinatra, who's their idol, comes up and kind of bitch slaps the teacher and goes, yeah, and I can't do it in Rat Pack lingo like this guy wrote it, but he goes, what are you doing? He says, all that stuff you love, that comes from these people not knowing this stuff. If they don't, you're going to ruin everything.
Yeah, because you're giving too much. Yeah.
So they just cut it off. They just stop it, and then the last scene is us just kind of leaving Earth. And then Golden Boy reaches out of the fire saucer and just flicks a switch, and the whole universe turns off. That was just a visual effect, I imagined.
Yeah.
But then the other thing, as we leave, you see the whole horizon is covered in flying saucers or things like flying saucers coming to Earth. Because at that point, everybody's discovered the signal. We don't know what. That's just kind of a cliffhanger of an ending, kind of. So that's. I want to say that out loud. I've never told anybody that. Kind of do not quite as densely illustrated version of that.
Cool.
With some guy.